You're here, the child said cheerfully as if they'd been expecting him. I thought you might have forgotten. Ethan's mouth went dry. I don't. That's okay, the child interrupted. She said you might not remember everything yet. Ethan glanced at the woman in the silver coat, but she only watched silently, her expression unreadable. The child took his hand, small, warm, sticky from the popsicle. Come on. We don't have much time before he gets home. Who? Ethan asked, though a knot was already forming in his stomach. The child didn't answer, just pulled him down the street toward a narrow alley between two houses. At the end of it stood a garden gate he didn't remember ever seeing before. Beyond it was a small courtyard, shaded by flowering vines. In the center was a table set for tea, 2 cups, a plate of biscuits, and a third cup turned upside down as if waiting for someone. The child sat in one chair and motioned for Ethan to take the other. I used to come here a lot, the child said, swinging their legs. It's safe here. Safer than home. Ethan swallowed hard. Safe from what? The child's smile faltered for the first time. From the person who says I'm not allowed to be me. A memory stirred in Ethan's mind, an argument, shouting voices, the sound of a door slamming. But before he could grasp it, the child leaned forward and whispered. You know, don't you? You just forgot. Ethan shook his head slowly. I don't. Yes, you do, the child insisted, their eyes bright but urgent. You chose to forget. She helped you. And now you have to choose again. The woman in the silver coat stepped closer, her shadow stretching across the table. It's time, Ethan. The truth isn't in front of you anymore, it's inside you. And there's someone coming who doesn't want you to remember. A sharp slam echoed down the alley, like a door being thrown open. The child's eyes widened. He's here. Ethan turned toward the sound, his pulse racing. A figure was moving toward the courtyard, tall and deliberate, their features still hidden in shadow. But even from this distance, Ethan felt a cold wave of recognition and dread. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder. This is the moment you've been running from for 20 years. Don't run this time. The figure stepped into the light, and Ethan's stomach dropped. It wasn't a stranger. It was his father. And he looked exactly the same as the day Ethan left home. The courtyard felt suddenly smaller, the air tighter, as Ethan's father stepped fully into the light. He hadn't aged a day, not a wrinkle, not a silver hair. His posture was the same, rigid, commanding, with a gaze sharp enough to cut. Ethan, his father said, his voice carrying that same tone Ethan remembered from childhood. Not angry. Not warm. Just final. Ethan took a step back, his chair scraping against the stone floor. This isn't possible. You look exactly like the day you left? His father's eyes flicked toward the child in the blue dress. Or perhaps, like the day Eden disappeared? Ethan's throat tightened. You know about Eden. I named you, his father replied. I know everything about you. The child shifted uncomfortably in their seat, glancing between the two of them. The woman in the silver coat stayed silent, watching as if this moment was some inevitable storm she couldn't stop. Why did you erase it? Ethan demanded. Why did you take this? He gestured to the child, to the dress, away from me. His father didn't flinch. Because the world would have eaten you alive. That's not your choice. Ethan's voice cracked, rising with years of swallowed anger. You stole something from me. You decided who I was allowed to be. You were 8, his father said sharply. You think you knew who you were? I saw the way people looked at you. I saw what they whispered. And I decided you wouldn't have to suffer for it. Ethan's hands curled into fists. You didn't protect me. You buried me. The child in the blue dress leaned forward, their voice small but steady. You didn't ask me. For the first time, his father's gaze wavered. You were too young to understand. No, the child said, shaking their head. You were too scared to let me. The words hung in the air like a strike of lightning. The woman in the silver coat stepped between them, her presence cutting the tension without a word. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the silver button, the one Ethan had brought from the theater. This doesn't belong to me anymore, she said, placing it in Ethan's palm. It's the last key to what he made you forget. Ethan stared at it, the spiral engraving gleaming faintly. And what happens if I use it? You'll see the day it happened, she said softly. The day Eden disappeared. His father's jaw tightened. Don't. Why? Ethan shot back. Afraid of the truth? I'm afraid, his father said slowly, that you'll remember everything and that remembering will break you. The child stood, their eyes locked on Ethan's. Maybe it will. But it will also make you whole. The air shifted again, darker this time. The courtyard walls flickered, like a film reel sputtering out. Somewhere beyond them, voices murmured, growing louder. Ethan felt the weight of the button in his hand, its spiral pulling at his gaze. Choose, the woman in the silver coat said, her tone urgent. Stay here in this moment, or press the button and go back to the day you lost yourself. Ethan looked at his father, at the child, at the woman. And then, he pressed the button. The world tilted violently. Shadows and light spun together until they became a single blinding flash. And when Ethan's vision cleared, he was standing in the doorway of his childhood bedroom. On the bed sat a child, Eden, hugging a stuffed rabbit, their eyes red from crying. From down the hall came his father's voice, hard and unyielding. Take it off. Ethan froze. This was it. The day. Ethan's pulse pounded as he stood frozen in the doorway, watching the child on the bed. Eden's hands clutched the stuffed rabbit so tightly their knuckles were white. The pale blue dress they wore was slightly wrinkled, the hem brushing their bare feet. From the hall, his father's voice cut through the air again, sharper this time. Take it off. Eden didn't move. Instead, they pressed their face into the rabbit's fur, murmuring something Ethan couldn't hear. Footsteps approached. His father appeared in the doorway, exactly as Ethan remembered, tall, broad-shouldered, his shadow swallowing the room. But seeing him here, knowing what was about to happen, made Ethan's stomach twist. This isn't a game, his father said, his tone low but dangerous. You go change into what I laid out for you, or what? The voice came from further down the hall. Not his father's. Smoother. Calm, but with an edge that stopped his father mid-sentence. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound. And there, emerging from the shadows, was the woman in the silver coat. Not the older, enigmatic figure he'd met in the theater. This version looked younger, her hair darker, her features sharper, her presence just as commanding. She moved past Ethan without seeing him, because of course, she couldn't. This was the past. You don't get to decide this for them, she told his father, her tone like steel wrapped in silk. His father's jaw tightened. Stay out of this. I can't, she said. You brought me here to help. Let me help. You were supposed to make them forget this nonsense, his father snapped. I was supposed to protect them, she shot back, her voice rising. And right now, protection means letting them be who they are. Ethan's breath caught. She was there. She had been part of this all along. His father stepped closer to her, lowering his voice to a venomous whisper. You have no idea what this world will do to them. I know exactly what it will do, she replied. And I also know what it will do if you tear this away from them. They stared each other down. Then his father glanced at Eden, small, trembling, still holding the rabbit, and something hardened in his eyes. Fine, he said. If you won't do it, I will. Ethan watched as his father strode into the room. Eden shrank back against the headboard. The silver-coated woman stepped forward as if to intervene, but then stopped, her eyes darting toward something on the desk. A small, ornate box. She crossed the room swiftly, opened the box, and pulled out a silver button, the same one Ethan now carried. She held it tightly, her expression unreadable, then slipped it into her coat pocket. Close your eyes, she told Eden gently. Eden obeyed, and in that moment, a faint ripple of golden light passed over them, so subtle Ethan almost missed it. When the light faded, Eden's expression was calm. Too calm. His father's voice softened. Go change, and we'll forget this ever happened. Eden nodded without protest. Ethan's stomach turned. This was it. This was the moment the memory was buried. But it wasn't just his father, it was her, too. She'd helped erase it. He wanted to step forward, to demand answers, but the edges of the room were already warping, the past sliding away like sand through his fingers. As the scene dissolved, The last thing he heard was her voice, quiet, almost regretful. Someday you'll remember. And when you do, I'll be here. Ethan jolted upright, gasping for breath. He was back in the antique shop. The silver-coated woman stood behind the counter, watching him closely. You saw it, she said. You lied to me, Ethan shot back. You helped him. I saved you, she replied. But now that you remember, you have to make a choice. What choice? She leaned forward, her voice low. Do you want to stay Ethan, or do you want to be eaten again? The silence in the antique shop was thick enough to touch. Ethan's heartbeat echoed in his ears as the silver-coated woman's question hung between them. Do you want to stay Ethan, or do you want to be eaten again? I don't even know what that means, Ethan said, his voice low. You're talking like one of us is fake. Her gaze softened. Neither is fake. But you can't be both, not anymore. Not after the bargain. He took a step closer. What bargain? She studied him for a long moment, then gestured to a small table in the corner of the shop. Sit. You'll want to be steady for this. Reluctantly, he did. She joined him, placing the silver button in the center of the table like a sacred object. Its spiral seemed to shift in the lamplight, pulling at his vision. 20 years ago, she began, your father came to me because you were different. He thought he wanted me to erase that difference. But I saw something in you, a spark most people spend their whole lives searching for. Ethan's jaw tightened. And you erased it anyway. I hid it, she corrected. Because the alternative was worse. She leaned forward. There's someone else, a collector of identities. He finds people like you, people who carry both selves inside, and he takes one for himself. Permanently. Ethan frowned. Takes. Strips it away, she said simply. You go on living, but you never know what's missing. And he uses what he's taken, wears it like a costume. Ethan's skin prickled. You're saying someone could have taken Eden? He was already circling you, she said. The day your father confronted you in that dress, the collector was there, waiting. Your father didn't know, but I did. So I made a bargain, your identity in exchange for your safety. That's not a bargain, Ethan said bitterly. That's theft. It was a delay, she said, her voice sharp now. I kept him from taking everything. But bargains have terms, and the term is 20 years. Which means she glanced toward the shop's front door. Time's up. A faint tapping sound filled the air. Not knuckles against glass, like claws against wood. Ethan turned. Through the fogged window, a shadowy figure stood just beyond the streetlight. Tall, thin, with movements that were too smooth, like a puppet without strings. Even from here, Ethan could sense the figure's focus fixed entirely on him. The woman rose swiftly. Don't look at him too long. He'll see more than you want him to. Ethan tore his gaze away, but the image clung to him, like an afterimage burned into his vision.